SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sword of blade.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com. My name is Neil with Simpson Family Jeeps, joined in Grandma's Couch Studio by
Jeff Shermani.
the Italian Stallion, the producer guy,
Yep. And the maddest mad scientist, Scott Brown,
and
list maker extraordinaire.
and career day school presenter.
There you
which
go.
We'll talk about in our weekend updates, if you so choose to stay through the outro credits. Today we are going to be talking about insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance, which can be a dirty word for some people.
But we're going to talk about it from the garage perspective, not from your insurance policy. We did that. We had an insurance agent come on and actually talk about how to insure your vehicles for off-road use and for regular use.
right.
But we're going to talk about it from a garage perspective now.
And so it should be a fair conversation to communicate. Maybe be enlightening for some people in that regard. Did want to mention that Stellantis has chosen a new leader. I don't know if you guys saw that at all.
I did because Davey brought it up. But we could have, if I knew you were going to do that.
He did that, Scott.
He
Go ahead,
did.
bring it up. Go ahead, tell your
did.
story now.
Antonio Velosa.
Oh,
I don't even know what.
another singer.
Yeah, right. That's right. Another singer. They replaced Carlos Tavares with Antonio Velosa, and actually, Mr. Velosa is he's no spring chicken when it comes to the North American automotive market. In fact, he's been the chief operating officer of the North American market. So I think they're
South
really.
America?
What did I say?
North America?
Did I not say North America?
No, he was South America.
No, he's North America. No, he's in North America because
How
it's
about we
complete
just say Americas, and then you're both right.
chief operating officer for the Americas.
That's what he got promoted to, I thought. I thought he was previously South America, per what David
No.
told me.
Nope.
Okay,
He's
then I
no
blame
stranger to
David.
the North American market. Velosa has been. Why are you taking this? You don't even have a documentation in front of you, Jeff.
No, I'm going by what
America's-
Davey told me.
What?
It's the Americas.
Oh my God! This was a ploy to satisfy North American dealers. It's all across the world as far as the talk about elephant in the room, and this is why this. So I'm very, very certain of what I'm reading and what we're talking about. It is a ploy to 100% satiate and satisfy North American auto dealers because, quite frankly, our manufacturing and production here is what spurred so much of the criticism of Tavares, not alone the fact that he, kind of drove this Hindenburg into the ground. So, so it'll be interesting to see what they've done. Now, he actually has been the interim operating chief executive officer. So it is actually just kind of making it formal is, not so exciting. Anywho, so that is that's your tidbit, your weekend update with who would have known that Jeffrey had that on his soundboard.
I mean, of course he does.
No doubt. No doubt.
So I have
prideful
one
in that.
specifically for you, but I think I'll save it for the moment.
Oh, geez.
You'll love it.
I can't wait. I'm sure.
so-
I'm sure.
I'm going to go to the comments here.
Yes.
And we've got Nate, of course, first. Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't know how he manages to get first.
He's spectacular.
every single week. Like, That's impressive. Bill, good morning. Joe O'Brien, you're late. No, Joe, we were right on time. 10:19. He tells us we're late every week.
If you're
now.
not early, you're late.
Billy Joe is good morning. I'm not muddy. Amy is saying good morning, guys. Jaga Jeepers, good morning. Keith, good morning. Rob, morning, guys. Bradford, morning, guys. Jeannie's, good morning, my friends. Bill McWilliams is asking if that does cover tires under the insurance. Rob needs them. And then Joe O'Brien says good morning.
I saw Rob's unfortunate wounding of his tire.
Good morning to everybody. And I held my tongue in a capacity to communicate directly on the Book of Faces. But I feel like in this opportunity where we're speaking to over 75 countries on 6 out of the 7 continents will be my opportunity to maybe say that Rob's problem is the fact that he's driving a minivan in an off-road capacity.
A true minivan.
Dub J life. That's maybe that's the problem. I thought, well, maybe I won't stir the pot so much. Well, no, hey, maybe I'll use this medium to share unto the world. I see you, Dub J.
Davey just sent me a thing saying got your back, and it's an article about how during his time as chief operating officer of South America, he took the Fiat brand to the market-leading position and then significantly grew the Peugeot, Citroen, Ram, and Jeep brands.
I mean, his name sounds South American or something like
Oh,
that.
he's Italian. He's Italian. He's also Italian, as is the sentiment.
Jerry says good morning, and then Daddy Jeep said, ouch.
We just can't believe the internet anymore, right? I mean, I literally have an article that says one thing. You have an article that says the other. What are we supposed to do?
I don't know. And if you don't like that, you make AI
here's
make
what
it
we're
what you
supposed
want
to
And
it
do.
to be.
AI can make anything you want.
Here's what we're supposed to do.
Pivot! Oh my God, I'm in love.
I knew you'd like that
He
one.
likes that button.
I love it. I love it. Anywho, and there was a big weekend, the Hartville Jeep invasion, Jeep event. I'm not exactly sure what little qualifier they used after that. I just know it was Hartville. Had the Mama Duck, arguably the world's largest rubber ducky on display right here in Ohio. This past weekend looked like a lot of people enjoyed that experience. We are at just under 2 weeks for Bantam Jeep Heritage Festival. And for those of you who are planning to join us, we're at roughly 1 month for the 4th of July Jeep Parade and festivities. So we really, really, really encourage a healthy turnout for that. We're going to have a little block party atmosphere, then parade through the local community down to the sandbar.
Apparently, they had a heck of a weekend because Billy Joe's got video of Rob needs a tire, Keith has issues with not wanting to stay running, and Bill topped them all with the radiator hose blowing. And Billy Joe's got video and lots of mud and fun.
It looked like a great weekend for minivan wheeling at Bantam Jeep Heritage Festival.
Minivan wheeling.
Yeah, it's that
I
Dub
only
J
saw
life.
one minivan surrounded by TVs.
Real, yeah, that's right. That's exactly. That was exactly it. It was like a mother goose, you know,
Yeah,
with the.
with their flock.
Jeannie said they did not inflate the rubber duck because it was too windy.
Oh, that's a shame. I saw the duck. I saw it getting brought in, kind of on setup day, but that totally makes sense, and that's unfortunate because that's a really cool visual.
They should have just strapped it to Jeeps.
Just tie it down, anchor points,
Yes.
winches, all the winch lines out, just holding the
duck.
mama duck down.
I don't remember what year it was, but it was years ago now. They had it at Tall Ship Days, and it was out in the water.
See, and I'm
that
not
thing
sure
was
if this is
huge.
the same duck or not.
See, and I don't. Yeah, I wonder
Because I know the Pittsburgh had it on the Three Rivers,
Right.
and Tall Ship Days had it out on the lake in the bay.
Yep.
This was intended to just be set up in the parking lot.
Maybe that's the problem because
So-
it was too boring for the duck.
I was gonna say.
This is just set up in the parking lot, and so I don't know if this is the same duck or if it's a different duck, or I don't know how these ducks work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't let facts get in the way of a good story.
We could just have AI generate our article proving our point
Yes.
There you go.
and cite fictitious references.
So insurance.
So
I have learned so much in insurance over the past
He hit the pivot button again.
He did. In the past year, maybe feels like 4 years, but I think it's been a year.
Well, I think that first and foremost, from a garage perspective, we want the world to know what a lot of people don't know is that we actually do collision insurance jobs
Yes.
for Jeeps that are appropriately covered under their insurance. We do insurance jobs kind of all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we are particularly adept at working through that process to assist our customers. But we're not a paint shop.
No.
And we're not your traditional collision shop. So we're not going to be necessarily pulling your frame around. And we're not obviously not spraying paint here in our facility.
No, but we would much rather start with your Jeep with the insurance than get it from a body shop, which tends to happen also.
There you go. And that's part of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about some of our experience
Yep.
from directly learning ourselves,
Yep.
and then some of our experience of how we have approached the insurance process for our customers and what our customers can expect if they are going from our experience, if they are going to a standard collision shop, because you might be listening to us in Southern Florida or Western Montana or
Jeannie said that is the same duck. That's my new way to interrupt you.
Yeah. fair.
It's the same duck.
Appreciate it, Jeannie.
It'll be at Put in Bay. She drove all over there for a picture, skipped her retreat, and never got the picture.
Oh.
But it will be at Put in Bay because it is the same duck.
Okay. Fair. All right. So, Scott, you learned a thing or two about insurance.
I did. So first thing I learned is keep it Jeep centric for a minute. You go and you modify your Jeep and you put, an sweet ultimate axle in the front and you put 37s on it with aftermarket wheels. Those can be upwards of $3,000 to $5,000 just for your rolling stock anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Then you do fenders and you do bumpers and you do a winch and you do headlights and you do all that sort of stuff, and you do it a little at a time. And over the course of that time, you don't realize I've put, $25,000 in my Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily for me, I didn't learn this one the hard way ish. I didn't get in a collision to learn that all that stuff was not covered, but I had sold that Jeep and I bought another one. And we were talking about with my agent why the price of that Jeep, because it happened to be a Rubicon, was so much more. Because the very first thing out of her mouth when we went to put insurance on is, oh, he had to get a Rubicon. That's more.
Sure.
And we're like, well, why is that? And she's like, well, because it has all those off-road things. And I said, well, my last Jeep had off-road things. And she says, well, we didn't know that. If you want those covered, that's an extra rider. And you have to have, it would actually have had to have about 3 extra riders on that Jeep to have all that stuff covered. And it would have added thousands of dollars of cost to my insurance. So that is a situation where you can think you're covered and you're not until you find out that you really, really aren't, because the Jeep's damaged or broken in some regard. Another thing, I have vintage Jeeps, which are covered by a vintage insurance company, and they are plain as day that basically you go in the dirt, you screw it up, that's on you.
Right.
You're not asking for them to cover any damage from an off-road. And actually they didn't like covering the vintage Jeeps because if it looks like it's an off-road rig, they're not here for it at all because of getting burned in the past by other people.
Sure.
So that, for vehicle-wise, was a big eye-opener for me. Again, you think you have this false sense of security. You think you're covered. Then you have to have that conversation with your agent. Ask those uncomfortable situations. They're not out to get you. They're actually there to. That's why you have a good agent, to ask those questions without going straight to the corporation that's insuring you and getting yourself in trouble. Air quotes.
Right. That's I personally am obviously we want to steer this conversation towards kind of our garage specific side of things and not fall too far into the insurance policy conversation, like
Right.
Jeffrey was saying. But why I too am a big fan of a brokerage
Mm-hmm.
and not just going to put my insurance information in a website.
Correct.
The general, right?
Right,
We all
right.
remember those. You know,
Yeah.
you just fill out this form online and they provide you a state minimum coverage. That's realistically not going to work with the majority of modified off-road
Well,
rigs.
and not only that, you have this catch-22 where you want to pay the least, but then when you get damage, you want them to pay the most, and that doesn't really go hand in hand.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
if you're the modification budget doesn't end with the modification,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Oh, look at that. That's like that was impactful. It's like going out to eat and not being able to afford the tip, in my
Correct.
opinion.
Yep.
Right?
correct.
Your meal is not just what's advertised on the menu, but
Correct.
you're paying for the entirety of the experience.
And that was a hard pill for me to swallow, coming up along trying to pinch pennies to afford things. Insurance was always a bane of my existence because now there's an extra cost. The tax, I forever my wife would be checking me because I would be excited about something new and I'd have all the money together and she says, well, what about the tax? I'm like, didn't expect that.
Right,
Extra couple
right.
$100 for that.
Right.
So you gotta look at the whole picture, and sadly, I've had to learn that the hard way. And then you go to store that vehicle somewhere, garage space, whatever. Now that's again something that many people may not know. The vintage policy requires it to be stored inside something.
Well, that's honestly that's what I wanted to ask you. And again, we're a little bit on to specific policies, but it'll all kind of come back around. With your vintage vehicles, right? Because obviously we all know, about your 36 from multiple updates over the years.
Yep.
That particular insurance policy provider is a pretty reputable, famous one.
Yep.
Right? It's across the board. And what I think I heard you say, is there a reason we're not sharing their name on air?
I just figured it. Why not? Why? Because this is a
Why
general,
muddy the waters? Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. So what I think I heard you say was that they don't love the insuring the vintage Jeep.
Correct.
Is that correct? Because if they say if you do anything in the dirt,
Yes.
you're voiding your policy.
basically
Right. So now you have this sick 36 Ford.
Yep.
Um,
which is more their bread and butter.
which is more their bread and butter, right? And so they just know about this more.
Yes.
But what if you wanted to do grog with it?
Oh, Trog.
Trog. There we go. The race, not grog. I was trying to like place the G, and I was like, what the heck is that first G for? The race of gentlemen, not
So 2
good
seconds
race of
on
gentlemen.
my soapbox
Great
because
race of gentlemen.
he shoved the soapbox in front of me. I sadly couldn't do Trog because you have to be in 1934 and older, and I'm 2 years too new.
Oh, okay.
Who knew that almost 90-year-old car wasn't old enough? But anyway,
Okay.
same kind of thing. If you go to do any competition, your insurance ceases at the entrance of the track and reaffirms at the exit of the track.
So this particular large-scale national insurance provider of classic vehicles
Yep.
is not okay with a 4x4 necessarily going, but when you go to a car meet,
Yes. They expect
There-
it to be sitting there pretty. People can look at it.
and yet we all know that every guy coming and going from the Carlisle Performance car meets has to do a rev tune-up and squawk their tires in some capacity.
Yes. I think they sort of know that happens, but are pretending it doesn't.
I'm salty.
100%.
They just don't like 4x4s. I've been fighting that fight from all my life.
So I'll make you feel better. If it's an autocross car, because I've seen lots of people take muscle cars and turn it into something that could curve, straighten out corners.
Straighten out corners? What?
Anyway,
What is
they can go around an autocross track, and Good Guys and some other places have actually had autocross meets at their big car shows.
Right.
Same thing applies.
Okay.
If you take your 68 Camaro on the autocross track and you biff it into another car or into a big piece of concrete that they have around the track,
one of the barriers.
that's on you.
Yeah.
Now, if you're leaving the meat in the car and you crash into the back of another car, that's covered. The part is you have to prove that.
Right, that you weren't hot dogging.
I'm gonna backtrack a little bit though, and say not obviously with that insurance, but there are some insurance policies that will cover off-road stuff.
They will.
And factually, in the comments, we've got Nate talking about where his was covered and then it burned down and he got it covered plus the add-ons. My policy, I called about it after we had the insurance agent on, and I was like, hey, you know what? I want to ask some questions. I called my broker, and he went through and he goes, no, you actually got a free $5,000 worth of add-ons
Correct.
that you don't have to even report.
But you didn't know about that initially.
I
Is
didn't
that
know
correct?
about it.
Correct,
You have-
right? And that's,
I mean,
so you
my
have
whole
to ask
point is
questions.
you have to ask questions. You have to know the way the policy is written because there is little tiny details like that. Sadly, in my case, I was not covered, and I thought I was.
You either have to know that or you have to have a really good attorney who can read contract law and can say, hey, they didn't actually specifically exclude it, so you're technically
They,
covered.
they always have more attorneys and
that's
more
fair.
budget.
I
so
take that too.
Yes.
Anyway, so with the vintage ones, they really want you to store them inside so they're protected when they're not on the road and not going to a show. So that is something they'll literally sometimes ask, and you get brownie points from them if it's on your own property, because now they look at theft goes down a couple ticks because you are there all the time versus an off-site building that you maybe only go there to get the vehicle once in a great while.
They're also not supposed to be daily drivers in your
Correct.
situation. Is that correct?
Now, the nice thing of that is they do cover spare parts. So you have a rider available like Jeff's with his modifications that you can basically go in and say, I have $5,000 worth of extra stuff. So say in a garage fire, you lose the vehicle, you lose all the spare parts, they will cover some of that.
And that's under your auto policy, not your homeowner's policy.
Correct.
Okay.
And that is a good segue into thinking. You need to ask questions. What does your homeowner policy cover? Does it cover your project Jeep sitting in your garage? Mine didn't. I thought I did. Doesn't. Also doesn't cover basically anything with a title. It doesn't cover. Is the long and short of it. So if you have a tractor without a title, it will cover that. If you have a camper beside it, it won't.
And the tricky part is that, again, comes back to individual policies,
Correct.
which we're trying not to talk about on this episode.
Yes.
Because everybody's policy is going to be different, the way it's written, who it's through, all of that. What's
All
gonna be
I'm
covered,
trying to
what's
bring
not.
up is that things you need to ask questions about because of my personal experience of thinking I was covered and not being covered.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. And that that all can be a sticky wicket because and I guess the last piece that has had me thinking about this in this regard as well is I recently saw a couple of people, and of course those who've been following me on my own personal socials recognize that my Jeep was actually hit by somebody who was uninsured, and likewise I've seen a number of people recently, and I have to say I just think that one of the challenges with the finances of the world at the moment, I think a lot of people let their insurance policies lapse.
100%.
They're carrying the card around and they go, well, I'll get to that, and they kind of never do. And so I feel like there's actually a high population of uninsured and underinsured people on the road right now. And because of that, when it comes to the garage portion of it, we have had to recently, as a business, switch our insurance yet again through our broker. And unfortunately, our broker did that because our insurance policy, despite having 0 claims in 2024, went up an additional 18%. And that is because of people being or underinsured at the business level. And ultimately, you know, I asked specifically, and they said that the particular insurance company that we had done all of our checks and balances with, had to have a walkthrough, had to have an inspection, made some corrections, had to have some stuff notarized and returned to them, had a non-competitive year in their garage keepers insurance policies. And because of that, they had to raise all of their rates across the board, regardless of whether or not you were an account in good standing, which we were. Now, the challenge, I think, when it comes from a garage standpoint and kind of what we, obviously we want to have a good umbrella overview of this subject matter, but we actually want to talk specifically about being an automotive service provider and appropriately getting in front of our customers. So not just doing a maintenance job, not just doing modifications, but specifically that you are a modified Jeep and you get into an accident and now they're going, okay, what do I do with my Jeep? Do I just send it off to a random
So XYZ Body Shop.
XYZ body shop?
And the problem with XYZ Body Shop is they don't know what those parts are.
Correct.
Yep.
Which we get called about all the time.
Constantly.
And emails. And that's what I think is valuable to share with our listening audience is the fact that while, yes, your vehicle may be at X, Y, and Z body shop, but they don't actually know what they're looking at.
Nope. So
Specifically when it comes to 4x4 stuff.
And aftermarket.
normal collision, your vehicle comes in damaged. They run your VIN number. That gives them basically the build sheet or birth sheet of that vehicle.
Yes.
And they are best equipped to put it back to what that
Exactly
list
what that,
says. When you have an aftermarket bumper, for example, they are going off of a name, off of a part number. And we're in Northeastern Ohio. Think about how long a sticker or a part number or a name stays on a product.
might last on that product. Yes.
That is all they're going off of. So more than once, we've had people bring Jeeps to us to send us pictures. They're literally
and
doing it.
Think about long arms.
And
Like we cut the pockets off the frame.
Yep.
It goes to a body shop. They're like, what do we can't fit arms on.
And
Right?
I was going to say, I'm not, this is not intended to be any type of disrespect to XYZ Body Shop.
No.
Because we work with a couple of them closely and
Yes.
have great working relationships with them.
And this is
But
why I know. I was literally having a conversation with the manager of this very high level body shop, and he's like, we are not equipped to do this.
I was going
well."
to say they almost don't want to,
They
and
don't want
that's
to.
what I was going to say. Is it's not meant to be disrespectful to any body shop, but it's like they don't even want to do these jobs.
It makes their job very challenging.
Correct.
Because for their work, it's speed, number one, because the insurance company wants it in and out. They're paying for a rental. The customer wants speed.
Correct.
And when they're going over and trying to figure out a part by Braille,
Yes.
that is not speedy.
Right.
And like Jeff said, if there's any other major modifications, that even it makes it worse. So sadly, that puts it back onto the owner responsibility to be like, okay, I have a modified vehicle at blah level. This general auto body shop might be great for my minivan.
Yes.
I'm going to take it a step further, though. What you
Like my
just
Dub
said,
J Grand Cherokee.
what you just said about the having the part numbers and the owner, you might have a list of all the components that you've put on your Jeep. You might be able to provide that to them. But what happens when those parts don't exist anymore? Now the XYZ body shop's staring at it going, I don't know how to fix this because I can't get that part.
I just want to jump on that as well and say, I know so many customers, so much of the general public that I speak to from my position who actually has no idea. They bought a vehicle
Correct.
because they thought it looked cool
Correct.
at this lot.
Yep.
Yes.
And they have no idea what parts are on their vehicle. Neither does the body shop now.
Right.
Correct.
So you've got twofold either way.
Yes. I just
And
wanted
I
to
would say
piggyback
the
on your sentiment.
biggest red flag for those is the modified from a dealership vehicles, because they have no idea what they're using. Sometimes they even take labels off because they don't want to be brand centric with
Yes.
that. They want to say, well, it's my dealership's package.
Yes.
They're not making the lift kit. They're not making the wheels and tires. So those are parts from somewhere. And now you've really made it difficult because now you have a disconnection. You didn't make those purchases. You didn't make those decisions. Someone else did. There's high turnover. So you can even go back to the dealership and be like, hey, I bought this. It had all these modifications. What are they? And they'll go, I don't know.
I bought it from you though, and they're still like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that guy hasn't worked here in 6 months.
Yes, or we sent it to this garage, and they actually did the lift for us, and we don't work with them anymore.
Joe just brought up a good point. Speaking of, I sent it to this garage. He says, I tell people all the time, it's their vehicle, not the insurance company's. Insurance companies always trying to tell owners where to take their vehicle.
Yep.
You have the choice to get it repaired where you want to have it repaired.
100%.
Yeah, and that is part of, I guess, a little bit of my big call to action for people who are local to us. If you are in a situation where your Jeep specifically is damaged, we want to hear from you, right? And we know how to navigate those waters. While, again, we are not ourselves specifically a paint and collision shop, we work with several reputable ones to address whatever specific concerns you have. Additionally, part of my hope today is to kind of walk folks through what it looks like when we are specifically involved in the insurance process. And why this is kind of on our forefront is that we recently had, literally, we have a juggling act of about 4 different insurance-based jobs in the shop.
Yes.
And it's again, we hear from a lot of people, oh, I wish I would have known. I wish I would have knew that there was a different option out there.
Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, well, right. That's human nature. But I wish I would have known there was another option other than going to X, Y, and Z paint shop. And arguably, if you're in our listening body, but you're not local to us, maybe it will encourage you to reach out to a reputable off-road or 4x4 supplier in your area to ask that question first for them before it goes to, again, X, Y, and Z paint shop.
Or if you're willing to pay the transport bill, because insurance won't pay the transport for long distance haul, we'll still take care of you.
That's true.
We've done it.
100% we have. And so the issue is that a lot of people, so there's a whole contention about totaling vehicles first and foremost, right? It is my opinion, and of course I'm not sitting here with an adjuster, but it is my opinion that 7 times out of 10, totaling out a vehicle by today's standards benefits the insurance company.
Yes.
So if you are an individual who's got a 10-year or older Jeep, it is benefiting the insurance company to total that vehicle out. Additionally, X, Y, and Z paint shop, it actually is benefiting them as well, especially if you take over 10-year-old Jeep with base modifications or heavy modifications. It benefits them to total that Jeep out because, quite frankly, the Jeep shows up, they get paid to do an assessment, they get paid to do a scan of it, they get paid to do an estimate based off that assessment. And if that assessment and scan and initial estimate labor hours is roughly $300 to $500, and they go, hey, this thing is going to be in excess of roughly 75% of the value of the vehicle, they still make $300 to $500. Your vehicle, you get cut a check. The insurance company pays less because they don't have to pay incrementally for time
And now
energy,
they
and
can
resource.
auction that vehicle off and make money back.
Correct. And
Yeah.
they sell it off into a parts process. As you say, the
When they have
auction.
a very well-oiled machine to handle that process versus where they're now trying to fix that 10-year-old vehicle. Or do the parts exist? Where did this bumper come from?
They're more likely to run into supplementals and add-ons that were not in the initial estimate.
Correct.
And if you don't know what that is, I'm just going to reiterate for Jeff. Or not for Jeff, but for what Jeff said. Maybe for Jeff.
Yeah, maybe for Jeff. I don't know.
But there's that initial estimate. Sometimes you don't know until you take it apart the true extent of the damage. And once
I'm going to say always.
always, you're right.
And once you start that process, it's very rare that the insurance is going to total it now.
Right.
Once
They're-
you start the process, you're going to finish it.
Yes.
Rare exceptions. They will.
It
They're
has to be pretty extreme.
pretty extreme. You take it apart and you go full stop, and then contact insurance. It might get totaled,
and that's-
but that's rare.
But this conversation is why there's a whole seam of people that go and they buy wrecked vehicles and they fix them, and it's always this, oh, this wasn't that bad, and I just put a door on it, and here, and boom, it's bound back on the road.
Let's talk about that extreme rare situation, and let me pivot for a second to pontificate upon that, because this one gets me really fired up. Have a friend of mine, and she's got a relatively new car. By all means, it's a Kia, so most of those people eat toothpaste for breakfast anyways, but she's got
Wow.
it nonetheless. And
Wow.
Well, maybe they wanted to lease a car and not care about it.
No
and-
doubt, right?
And get rid of it in 2 years.
it's honestly not a bad car. I actually really enjoy it. It's a good looking car. There's a great meme out there about what the vehicle says about you. And if it's a Toyota, it's this. If it's a Jeep, it's that. Blah blah. And it gets the Kia, and it says you eat toothpaste for breakfast. And that's the point of that joke, folks. So anyways, she gets rear-ended. And goes to the body shop. Body shop says, hey, we've got all of this logistics, parts logistics, where it's not coming in time. And so they claim they order all these parts. They claim that, it takes all this time because they're all on back order. They're trickling in. They're paying for rental. Eventually the rental runs out. So now she's paying out of pocket. Actually, I think she had to come back home, get a different vehicle, take it back down to where she was at, because now she wasn't going to pay for rental out of pocket. She had a family vehicle. She's burdened by all of that. It sits at the X, Y, and Z paint shop for so long. And eventually they start to take it apart. They had already bought parts, air quotes. And then they go, oh, hey, by the way, we actually need to total this thing. So they went to cut her a check, and X, Y, and Z Body Shop said, but I have all these parts and they can't be returned. And somehow X, Y, and Z Body Shop actually got the insurance company to diminish the value of the check that she received, based on the fact that they had to hold, or that they were stuck with parts that they couldn't get rid of.
Yep.
Sounds like they didn't do their job.
It sounded to me the whole time
First
it
thing
was
they
that,
should have done is tore her apart.
that's right. That's right. And it sounds like to me that they didn't do their job,
People like to pass the buck.
and they passed the buck, and she lost out in the grand scheme of things.
So sadly, I've heard that multiple times with those brands specifically, where they go to find parts and they don't exist. Amy's uncle rear-ended someone in his Kia, and they had to do this craziness. They had to use a next model year's hood, which
Whoa.
big modification.
Big modification for X, Y, and Z
and it
paint.
didn't have a spot for the emblem. That was the big change from one year to the next.
Gosh.
But that's literally, it took them forever to make up their mind. They were going to go outside of their comfort zone and do a different model year hood, because the one for his didn't exist forever.
Right. So that's an extreme rare occasion, and they passed the buck and she lost because of that situation.
Yep.
Yep.
So circle back to, our situation specifically here. The challenges for these other shops are that they don't always know if it deviates from that build sheet,
Yes.
like you were saying. That becomes very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this idea of like, was this part put on from the factory?
Mm-hmm.
And we've personally been inserted into conversations with, air quotes, factory lift kits, which were caster correction brackets, which is the bracketry that bolts onto the frame rail itself, relocating the upper and lower control arm mounts. And at no point in time did the factory ever actually use those, folks.
Yep.
Without question, that is a hill that I will die on. At no point in time did the factory ever put caster correction brackets on a Jeep. But there was times where as that Jeep rolled off to the line, before it went to a dealership or in the process of the dealership purchasing it, there were a number of aftermarket manufacturers, Nth Degree, AEV, and Terraflex, who put on these brackets. I just had to clear my throat.
I was
folks.
going to say, you struggled a little.
Who put on these brackets and called them, air quotes, a dealer direct or factory authorized or some other type.
Then
of
they can
thing.
add $20,000 to the price tag of the vehicle.
And that's exactly what, and what
they put $1,000 worth of parts on it.
correct.
Anyway.
And you could somehow roll this into the cost of your financing. But it becomes very confusing because that doesn't actually show up in the build sheet.
Yes.
But you've got a technician who's at XYZ Paint going, I'm looking at this. I don't exactly know what it is, but I know that it's not supposed to be there per se. And it's not in the VIN number associate,
Right.
Build sheet.
And something else that's kind of related, but not. Also talking to that manager of this good body shop, he was talking about there was this, and this is his story, so I'll just take that as a grain of salt. He said it was a Willys package Jeep, had a gold front bumper,
Right.
which me and Neil have contention.
Sure.
But anyway, and that front bumper was $5,000
Yes.
for this special package. So again, you can have someone over here in left field looking at this damaged Jeep,
Yes.
and they're totaling it.
They're
And
totaling
like,
it.
and they're like, "Well, it's just a bumper and the grill's messed up." Well, you didn't realize that replacement bumper is $5,000. So all those values add up to that 75%
Correct.
of the value of the Jeep. And you can literally have a Sport next to the mystery Jeep with the gold bumper. And that bumper's, I'm going to make something up, $500.
Yes.
I'm going to just jump in because, one, we have a sponsored thing that we have to talk about anyways, but it's related to this and the fact that windshields nowadays, you're talking about adding up cost.
Yes.
Windshields, if it's got the adaptive cruise control to get that recalibrated, the glass alone on with no extra features is pushing $700-800 at this point
100%.
with no
Plus
extra features.
and not recalibrating in that conversation.
Yeah, you start adding the extra features like the heated wipers or the calibration. I mean, windshields can get really
Which
expensive
is
now.
why my agent said basically always full coverage or at minimum liability so that stuff is covered.
Well, and that's why we love the windshield
I was
defense
gonna
by
say,
Racing Optics. Yeah, and it's a super cool product, and it's like a screen protector for your windshield. Yeah, and that will ideally save you in that process because part of my policy, and that's I didn't actually even explain this to everybody listening at home, but because of our corporate policy, my deductible, I like to keep my deductibles really low. It's kind of contrary to the rest of the world, but I want to pay as little as possible and allow the process to work the way it's supposed to.
Yep.
To get to a more competitive rate, they made my minimum, my deductible, $1,000. So that glass breaks specifically and other minor repairs, I cannot claim.
Right.
So in that situation, when I have the windshield defense product on one of my Jeeps, you just go and you pull off a sheet and you have 3 chances, 3 strikes before you're actually potentially breaking the glass. And I don't want to come out my pocket $1,000, so come out my pocket a couple $100 for that windshield product.
Well, not only that, you get to pretend you're your favorite NASCAR driver.
Right.
There you go.
Because it was a
Or
racing
motocross.
technology. Yeah. Because it's super cool. But
That is too. If you are listening and you want to go buy that product for your windshield, it is available at windshieldefense.com with our promo code SFJ20. You'll save 20% on that.
yeah, definitely worth the purchase. And so I want to go back to the bumper conversation because that's just a furious frustration for me because that dealership, or excuse me, that XYZ paint shop or dealership body collision goes, well, that bumper's $5,000. So right there, that's part of your 3/4 value of that vehicle.
Correct.
When I know as our business, we can turn around and we can put a $500 sport bumper on, or we can go kick one of our used part trailers and find one for $50
Yes.
and go, hey, if you're happy with this bumper,
Yep.
then we'll rock and roll, right?
Yes.
And then the actual repair cost of your vehicle goes down, and the likelihood of totaling it goes down. Now, I know Rob said the Dub J was a salvage vehicle. Chuck Norris is a salvage vehicle. It's actually very accepted within the Jeep community to drive a salvage
To
vehicle.
polish something.
Sure. Because and I feel like there's this massive discrepancy between what does and doesn't get totaled. And it has everything to do with the XYZ paint shop that you go to initially.
100%.
And that's
And people forget that you, as the owner of the vehicle, you have the most power in the situation, and they are trying to curb your power as quickly as possible. That's why you have to agree and sign documents when you finally reach a resolution. And people don't really factually understand that you have the power in a situation. If you don't like the way something's being fixed, or you don't like the parts being used, you have the power to say so.
right.
Now, I think it's important to say that you also have to be reasonable with,
Yes.
with your power, because we've actually know of situations where a customer let the power be their full control, and a year and a half later, their case was just getting closed. And that's
the
an
other
extreme.
swing of the extreme. But I also know plenty of people, they
Just accept what the
they just
insurance says.
accept what anything they come to you first.
Yep.
No, you're in a negotiation here.
Yep.
And how much you push back or not is your power.
Right. A claim's a claim. Make sure you get your full value out of it.
Well, and with that said, when it comes back to how we have approached situations, unique situations that we've been involved in is customers were in they were avoiding a deer, or they hit a deer and they jumped the median.
Oh, it was
and
crazy.
crazy type of story. And they call the insurance company because they're kind of in shock.
Yes.
And so they call the insurance company, and the insurance company, based on that initial point of contact, that initial point of claim, made the decision for the customer, because they were kind of out of the area ish. And they said, well, do you have somewhere that you want it towed? Do you have a tow service that you're tending to use? And he said, no, I'm using your roadside assistance. I need for you guys to do something. Insurance company said, yep, sounds great. I kid you not, based on the initial point of conversation, the Jeep was towed into the salvage system of the insurance industry.
Yep.
Before an adjuster even got to look at it, before the customer even had the opportunity to say that I would like for it to go to a preferred, shop for repair.
I would say in this situation, speed was their enemy, because they had just got into a pretty crazy accident.
Correct.
They were very hyped up, and their first thought is, I need to call my insurance. Now, you need to chill out.
Yes.
You need to collect yourself. You need to see what actually happened, what you think happened, and the way things arrived to that situation, how it actually did, can be two different things.
Yes.
And then you call the insurance, reserved and with composure.
So about 48 hours later or so, they're thinking, because they tow truck showed up.
Jeep's gone.
Jeep goes. And 48 hours, they get to that point of clear-headedness because now things have started to settle down.
Their stuff is
And they're
still
like-
in the Jeep.
Yeah, their stuff's still in the Jeep. They're like, hey, we'd like to get this. And they start thinking, well, maybe the Jeep's not that bad. I haven't seen it. I took some pictures. Maybe let me see what I could do with this Jeep. And they start calling their broker. They call this, and they go, we can't find the Jeep.
Yeah, Jeep's missing.
So we actually were involved because we were then, entered into agreement with the customer to do the repair. Their Jeep was literally missing from their possession. They did not know where it was for roughly 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I finally was able to track it down in a salvage yard as part of a large-scale insurance used parts sale process.
Their stuff was still in it.
Their personal items were still in it.
Some
and
of
it
them.
was somewhere outside of Pittsburgh at that
Yeah.
time.
Didn't some stuff come up missing in that as well?
There was absolutely some more to that story in that
Yeah.
situation, but and that's the quirky nature of this, folks. And I'm not trying to by any stretch malign any insurance company because, and then this is what I was going to then go on and share. We have worked personally with a number of insurance companies for purposes of just putting it out there. Progressive, Erie Insurance, State Farm are a handful that immediately come to my mind, who have been incredibly accommodating to their customers' needs. Very willing to process the initial claim, to not total the vehicle initially, to be accommodating to supplemental payouts as needed.
Real quick with that specific Jeep, to fix that Jeep, we did an axle, we did a frame, we did a substructure replacement.
Yes.
There was bumpers, headlights, all that kind of stuff. So the Jeep was pretty rough,
Yes.
and it still got fixed.
100%.
So
It was a complete frame off. It was a
Yes.
complete frame swap. There was no frame pulling.
and
There was-
financially still made sense.
yes. To the insurance company. It would have been totaled otherwise.
Well, and talking of that and talking about getting composure, composure goes both directions. As a first responder, I went to so many accidents where people would get out and they're like, "Oh, I just went off the road." No, you're in shock. You barrel rolled 17 times. There's nothing left to your vehicle.
Correct.
Versus the complete opposite, where
Correct.
they, had a minor injury and they thought they barrel rolled 17 times.
Well, 100%. And in that situation, they're in composure. They're in shock. They make that phone call. Oh, I just went off the road. It wasn't that bad. That statement is what the insurance starts with.
Correct.
That is an admittance of damage.
Yes. That's exactly correct. So you go back to your sentiment of like, chill out.
Yep.
Assess the situation.
Let reality
get it
sink
towed
in.
somewhere to a safe place.
Get your stuff out of it.
Yeah. So when it comes to us, as far as again, and maybe yourself, my encouragement for you is that if you do know the parts on your vehicle, that you have to the best of your ability an
Make a list.
itemized list. Yep, an itemized list of the parts and the value and the current market value of that particular product. What I think makes us adept, and we don't have to do tons of supplements per se, is that within reason, we know what we're looking at.
Yep.
And so when we do an assessment and then involve the insurance company accordingly, it is because we've already reached that fork in the road that we know that these are the parts that are required to do this job. And if there's anything further, that it's going to be kind of smaller and tangible. Additionally, I love working with insurance adjusters. It's actually something our lead performance mechanic from his prior world experience, or life experience in the paint and collision industry, he used to work with them directly when they'd come in. They're really not.
They're not a bad person.
They're not bad people
No.
by any stretch. I have not met an adjuster who I was like, whew, that person is just off on cloud, off in space.
No, but the insurance company will make you feel uncomfortable about that adjuster coming out.
Correct.
Yes.
They are deceptive. The adjuster comes out and he's your best friend. He's like, yeah, nope, that makes sense. We're going to add this. Yep, we can add this too.
To add to that, because it's something I just went through, it's common for these insurance companies to try to make that experience as cheap as possible for them. So there is literally third-party inspectors that will come out. That's literally all their job is. They're dispatching, someone not much different than you out to look at it. You can request for an actual adjuster from your company to come look at it. And I got to tell you, it was night and day difference.
100%.
Because the inspector, a third-party inspector, didn't know what he was looking at and was really having a false sense of what the problem was.
For your building.
For
you're
my
saying.
building.
Yes.
Where when I finally, through osmosis, figured out that I needed to be like, no,
Osmosis.
this is not right. I need to get a little bit frustrated and get a little bit excited and be like, this is not right. I need you to take care of me. This is what I pay for. And suddenly I got an actual adjuster. It was like, why is this an issue? I can see the damage. I can see this. And I'm like, holy crap. This is what I needed to have happen the entire time.
And I'm sorry, Jeff, would you?
I was going to say, I just have a story of an adjuster going above and beyond.
Yeah,
but-
go ahead. I'm going to piggyback that too.
So I had a minor fender bender where somebody changed lanes, didn't see me, pushed me into a snowbank in the middle of winter. This was years and years ago, but I had 2 car seats in the back seat, barely had a mark on the vehicle, but her insurance adjuster still came out to look at the vehicle. He looks at it and goes, all right, well, this is where she hit you, but I see your bumper's pulled out over here and you've got car seats in the back. Were they in there at the time of the accident? Yeah. Well, we're replacing those too. And he cut us a check for way more than I would have ever asked for because to me, it was minor. It was like no big deal.
Yeah.
But the adjuster's like, no, we're taking care of you. These are the things. And your car seats were in an accident, so they have to be replaced. I'm like, it was a bump. There's my kids hit them harder than that.
Yeah.
And they're like, nope, they're covered.
And I don't want the negative association to be like, oh, well, that's why insurance rates are going up, that and the third. No, that's why we pay insurance. That is their job, is to ensure that you were in this this fender bender, and that the manufacturer of the car seats say that if you have any type of
Any kind of
momentum, period, we need to ensure that
For the
that car
safety of the
seat.
child for the next accident.
Correct. And the thing is, I've thrown out a number of car seats. I had to kind of come to the altar
Do you know
on
car
that
seats expire?
because of expiration.
Right.
I had to throw them out because of expiration. And as a person in a former life who was a climber, we had to discontinue harnesses and ropes and stuff
Yep.
like that. Not because they were actually seemingly that bad, but because of that liability of
Correct.
just worst case scenario, just what if.
And that's why the insurance adjusters are going to go above and beyond because of the liability that could come later.
And that's the thing, is we do pay our premiums, and so when we get these adjusters out, and that's what I was going to share with you guys as well, they go, you know what, I'm seeing these axles, for example, fail left and right. I'm seeing these Dodge Ram axles break at this X, Y, and Z point. I'm seeing these Jeep axles twist, and they're it's not all of a sudden just you, and you're going, well, should I be totaling this Jeep? Is it actually safe? Is it this? And the adjuster comes out and says, oh, you know what? No, I've been to 7 other shops today, and they're working on similar issues. We can get this repaired. You'll be happily back on the road. That's a great peace of mind for you, the consumer, because the process of getting in an accident is traumatic enough. Now you're having to trudge through the muck of being without a vehicle, wondering about your personal belongings, trying to get back on schedule with a different vehicle you didn't intend to be part of.
Yep.
And the headache, the concern of going, hey, am I going to be able to fix this, and is it going to be safe in the future? And so I think it becomes, from our standpoint, it's supposed to be cooperative and not contentious. And
Right.
I think we want to demystify from our standpoint, because we do so many insurance jobs, and I don't think people would know that. We want to demystify the fact that you don't have to be contentious with the insurance company. You can ask questions like Scott was talking about. You can want an adjuster to
If
come
your
out because
agent
they might
doesn't want to
benefit
answer questions, you have a bad agent and find somebody else.
100%.
Because I have experienced both sides of it. And what I can say factually, you mentioned brokers earlier. I found brokers to be the best because they will find you the best insurance company to work with as well.
Correct.
I agree.
And something else too, real quick. You have to think about what else is going on around you. So say you get a little fender bender, and the stuff we've seen over the past year. We've had the fires in California. We've had the big storm damage in the Carolinas. We had all that snow load up here. The insurance companies were busy as heck.
Yes.
Yes.
And sometimes we get very self-centered on our output or our self-look, and we just think about what's happening to us. So when we have to call 14 times to get somebody, well, maybe that's why.
Yes.
So just, again, always look at the big, broad perspective, and don't give up because you didn't get answered the first time, or don't get frustrated at that person because you had to call 4 times.
And I think that goes for the X, Y, and Z paint shop as well.
100%.
That it's that power conversation you said, that you do have the power to insert yourself as a partner in the repair of your vehicle.
Yes.
From whether it be from choosing where it initially goes to partnering reasonably in how the vehicle is repaired.
Yep.
I guess I think the big thing that I would want to encourage our listeners from our experience doing these insurance jobs is to not be afraid of it and to work collaboratively through the process, that you should be involved.
Yep.
You should be an integral part of it.
Agreed.
All right. That was a great conversation, folks. Tune in after the credits if you want to hear about our weekend updates. And we're going to be talking about what? We got Bantam Jeep Heritage Festival coming up here in the very near future.
Yep.
And we've got some other hot topics. I know
Some
we
of the topics, not necessarily in this order, but like warranty voiding technician is one of our topics.
It's going to be talking about one of our technicians near and dear to us.
Yep.
In part.
Let's see. We had.
I thought you had a bunch lined up.
I do. I have a whole list. Of
I know
them.
you do. I thought you were going to just kind of spew them off the way that you really approached that with zeal. I was like, he knows.
I was ready
he
to,
knows.
but you kept interrupting it. It's gone. It's lost.
It's because he's not drinking coffee. He's got vitamin water. It's
That's-
not doing the same thing. For
That's
his
why
brain.
Maybe.
You're going to all have to tune in next week. Until then, Jeep on.
Jeep on.
Keep on. All right. What'd you guys do?
So, real quick, because it's sort of a tie-in, because of knowing stuff wasn't covered with the building situation, I decided, I have just recently traded my camper for a side-by-side, and it's a utility side-by-side because I have to be practical. Mm-hmm. So I call it my mobile wheelbarrow.
Perfect. That makes perfect sense to me.
And I was like, cool, this is very useful and everything. I need to make sure it has insurance on it because it has a title.
Right. We were talking about that.
So,
Yeah, you said that you went to the auto insurance and they're like, yeah, no, it's an off-road vehicle UTV, so
hold
no.
on. Don't steal my thunder. So I go to my agent and I say, hey, I have this utility vehicle. I need to put insurance on it. She's like, oh, this is no problem. I actually took the title in because the VIN number was way too much letters and numbers. I would have been doing the whole chart of the alphabet.
Okay.
And she couldn't find it in her listing. Okay. And of course, being weird, I couldn't buy like a Honda or not buy, but trade for a Honda or a Yamaha or anything like that. It has to be an off brand. So any which way, she had to take a picture of the title. She had to submit it to my actual company, and they retorted back, well, it can't be on an off-road policy because it has turn signals from the factory.
What?
And I was like, oh, okay. So can we
What?
put it on the auto policy then? Well, no, because it's not a passenger vehicle. So, currently don't know where that is falling.
Oh, you
She
don't
was-
have an answer
I
yet.
don't have an answer yet. She was looking into something else. I actually went on one of the forums and said, hey, this is the problem I'm having with this specific model. And I've already gotten like 4 people being like, oh, I have mine registered or insured with that company. I don't understand what the problem is. So
We have a customer.
So
who
either you
had-
just got a bunch of people kicked off of their policy real quick.
I'm not
or-
sure yet.
You know what? We have a customer, and he's safe, and that's wonderful. He had a side by side that is actually legally registered for non-highway use. Right, that's always the important contention, folks. You can be on side streets or local state streets. And he had it insured. I think he told me about $465 the entire year, and they have just cut him a check for $25,000 because his wrecked in a off-road experience, an off-road run out west. So
I know that we're not really reading
yeah,
comments
fine.
at the moment, but Tyler McDaniels just said, finally able to make it to a live stream. Let's go. You guys are awesome. So welcome, Tyler. Glad you made it to the live stream.
Thanks for making this a priority, Tyler. Yeah, it's out there. You know what I mean? Now,
Yeah.
I understand that whoever was insuring his side by side was just insuring his side by side.
So
it was not through his greater.
I have found
brokerage.
basically I like to go in and have one company do
I know
everything.
Me too.
And that is not good for side by sides
Nope.
because these companies don't know what to do with them.
Yep.
They're a new
We
segment.
thought that. I mean, go back to what we were just talking about. We thought that the insurance companies didn't exactly know what to do with modified Jeeps.
Yes. They're really putting up the white flag going, I don't know what to do with this side by side. Is it a utility vehicle?
Yes.
Is it an ATV?
Yes.
Is it for the road? Is it for off road?
Is it for home use?
For
Is it a
home
farm
use.
vehicle?
Oh, and I had a bunch of people on that thread saying, well, I just use it in my yard. What do I need insurance for? Well, when your barn burns down,
Yes.
do you want to eat 10, 15, 20? I've seen one for $37,000.
Out of
Yeah.
curiosity, did you check with your homeowner's policy to see if that would be covered,
Well,
like your tractor
So,
would be?
so she has
She's
that,
the one who has his policy too.
and it has a title, so therefore no.
Oh, okay.
Now my tractor, which also has turn signals for the
From the factory.
from the factory, would be covered because it doesn't have a title for my specific policy.
So can you just rip up the title? And
Oh my god.
And then
My neck hurts.
to make it even worse, talking about the tractor, we had a cap on our policy that we didn't know, but I sort of didn't know about. I'm sure I was told, but I totally
Right.
glossed over it, that my damage with the building exceeded that value. So cool. Maybe my tractor burned up. Well, does your policy allow for all that value of that tractor? Or now the tractor is getting paid out, but nothing else is because now that one item has capped your value.
Right.
So then you have to go in and have an uncomfortable conversation with your agent and be like, hey, I actually have more value than that, which we actually did after that fact and upped it for everything because mine, it was for all outbuildings under one umbrella with that value. Holy crap.
Right. If that snow would have taken out two of them.
I went really up a
Yes,
creek.
you would.
yeah.
So is that part of your update as far as the side by side was concerned?
That is. And then the other part I did is Jeff pushed me out into the wilderness and was like, okay, I helped you
I
dig
saw you trenching.
two sides. Now you can do the other one yourself.
He empowered you.
He empowered me. So I spent
I literally said, what is nice is now that you know how to do it, you can do it at your convenience. You have all the equipment. You have
Yeah.
the tools to do it.
that was him ripping the
luck.
Band-Aid off and saying, you're on your own now. So
Fair.
I got out there Sunday morning. Finally, the weather was decent and we didn't have 8 inches of rain in 24 hours. So I was able to not sink to China, dig that all out, move a bunch of rock, put a bunch of pipe in, fill it all back in.
Well, I'm gonna back the story up because this morning was very entertaining. He comes in this morning and I was like, "Oh, how'd your trenching go?" And he said, "Well, it was really challenging when I got to the tee." Why didn't you start at the tee and work away from it?
Because we had started the other way before, and I just followed the recipe in my head until I got back into the corner and went, oh crap, I painted all around me. I guess I'm going to stand here now.
Literally, what happened? I was cracking up.
So
Oh, that's awesome.
definitely made it more challenging. Still got it done.
Good.
Had to dig 2 holes instead of 1 hole, but that's fine.
That's all good.
And Jeffrey?
So I chose to stay home this weekend and actually do my own house projects instead
Oh,
of,
look at
instead of
you.
helping everybody else.
Look at you.
And so I ended up, our house, the way I built the gate, I have a double gate, 2 8-foot gates on the fence. And just moving the tractor in and out for mowing, that's stupid. It's a massive gate system that I don't need to use for that. So we've been talking about putting in another 5-foot gate so the tractor can drive in and out on the other side. So I did that. I cut down the fence, put in a new post, dug that all out by hand. My dogs also have an affinity of digging under the fence to get to my neighbor's dogs that are right there.
Oh, that's nice of them.
So they like to play together. So I had to also dig out and put pavers in so that they can't dig under it.
Mm-hmm.
So we did all of that, leveled that out, put a new gate in, built the gate. It's just 2x4s and stuff to make that all function.
Sure.
So conveniently, I had a lot of leftover hardware and stuff in the garage that I didn't have to buy much other than the new post and a couple 2x4s.
Yeah, it's amazing what we can do when we start kicking the shelves and finding
Yeah.
those parts and pieces.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Worked out pretty good.
So you still continue to employ the Jeff the Builder mantra, obviously.
He has to build something.
Right?
Just
Constantly.
chose to take his ball and
I
go
want
home.
how he has like a soundbite for me or us, and I want him to have like the Bob the Builder theme song, but
Yeah.
Well, if you would sing it, we probably would have that. But I
Oh,
understand that
God,
you don't want to sing
no.
it for Davey.
no. Oh my.
Because Davey even wrote the lyrics to it and everything.
I don't. Anyways, maybe we'll have to. We'll have to do like a auto tune version of it.
Why can't AI do it?
Ooh, AI probably can do it now.
Well, I think you have to pay for AI to do those kinds of things.
Oh.
And I don't.
I saw someone jumping that wasn't jumping, so I don't believe you.
Well, Davey would be the one to talk to about
He would
that.
be. Well, I was going to say, I'm kind of proud. We have wrapped up our season of Career Day exhibiting. One of the unique things that we do for the local community is have the opportunity to go to the schools and show off our Jeeps and some of the projects and do presenting for kind of elementary youth, first grade through fifth grade, and talk to them about careers within the automotive and mechanical community. But not just that, but how we uniquely do it and kind of how we mesh media into it as well. And the kids get a real kick out of our, displays, and we show off a lot of Jeeps, and people, the community loves Jeeps as a whole, right? And so we did that last week, and we were at one of the local schools, and Scott had opportunity to join us, and my dad always comes to support and help facilitate. It was, my parents were both teachers, so being able to go into the schools and share what we do here with our customers, with our audience as a whole, back with local youth who might not have that experience is pretty cool.
I think one of my favorite aspects of you guys doing that is that you also make Savage go.
Absolutely.
And the media, the YouTube specifically content is one of the big things kids really get excited for.
Yes.
And Davey's not there for it.
So that's one of the things,
his
like,
social battery is negative when he gets back each time.
That make it even worse. So we go in, we have the whole truck and trailer. We have a Jeep on tons and 40s flexed out on the trailer. We have a nice polished 10 by 10 tent. We have a table, Neil's and dress shoes, for cripe's sake. The only thing that my kids' friends took away from it, your dad's a YouTube influencer? Your dad's on a podcast? No, what about the Jeep over there? That looks fly as
know.
heck on tons and 40s.
and I'm like, and train horns and lights and noises and cool things, right? So much that we talk about, and these kids, I give them this whole spiel, and there is like a 30-second portion where I talk about and qualify our YouTube and podcast experience.
Yep.
And I literally, Davey, at this point in time, because we've done this a number of years, we don't actually need to super make videos, but he takes his camera rig and he puts it on a tripod and he stands there and he smiles. Now, Davey doesn't speak a lick through the whole thing.
He prefers
helps
it that way.
He helps me set up. He's good emotional support in the process, right? And I just have to, in that process, motion to him, and I do all the talking. I talk about how he shows up and he sits at this cool, I relate it to them, but I call it a gaming rig, but it's dual monitors, a big comfy chair, super speed, home-built computer.
Yep.
And Davey does all of our editing and videography and picture, editing and taking. And Davey just smiles and waves. And he literally came back Friday, and they were like, "Hey, so how are you, Davey?" He's like, "I'm drained." Like, what?
Yeah.
Not only that.
So I specifically said, what's your social battery at? Negative.
Not only that, all the kids, they're going away, and at the end of every group, there was at least 2 to 3. Oh, what's your channel?
Yeah.
What's this? None of the questions had to do anything to do with automotive.
No, not
They
about.
wanted to watch us on YouTube and on podcasts.
Yep. Oh man. So we did that, and
was very
that was
interesting.
Friday. A couple Fridays in a row here. We're done with that. We're focused on our shows coming up, the parade coming up. I spent a bunch of time working on and through all that kind of stuff over the weekend. Home build projects.
I was just going to say, did you get anything done?
Yeah,
With
home build projects. Really trying to, kind of further that along as the best of our ability. I kind of realized this weekend that at this point in time, I'm not, by no means am I in a rut, but I'm in this holding pattern of the fact that I'm kind of just enjoying being out there and doing it. And our life is kind of satisfied in this moment where we're living in the kind of in our current capacity. And so it's kind of like, I'm just kind of out there enjoying myself. And so there was a number of cool things I did, but they're on my wife and I's social pages at the moment as we kind of continue to polish her beautiful secret garden. And and then a bunch of 4th of July festival stuff that we talked about. The parade stuff that we encourage everybody to participate in, and birthday party for my daughter, which, of course, per the usual, had to involve the limousine.
Oh, perfect.
Makes perfect sense.
Makes, yeah, right?